What's going on, everybody? My name is Nedia. Welcome back to more Let's Play Pokemon Colosseum. In the last episode, we entered here into this cave in search of Mirror B and struggled a lot at everything. And in this episode, we're going to continue on in this cave, hoping to find Mirror B and hopefully not struggle as bad. Before we continue, I'm going to show you my least favorite thing in this entire game. So, if you watched that last episode, I'm recording this directly after, so I don't know what the comments are or anything, but maybe you commented. Maybe you were thinking, Nedia, why didn't you just save before fighting that guy? If you knew you knew a shadow Pokemon, why didn't you just save before fighting him, so you, in case you risked of knocking it out, you wouldn't have to go backtrack so far to get another chance? And that's a great idea, and I like that idea. Here's the problem. Press the start button. No save option. Is it just Pokemon? Nothing in the PDA that lets me save. You know, we got email, the strategy memo, snagged Pokemon. Nothing in the items, and then just leaving the menu. No other button I can press on the controller does anything. This is just a healing. The only way you can save in this game is by using a PC. By using one of these PC machines, that is the only way you can save in the entirety of Pokemon Colosseum. And I hate it. I don't know why they did this. This is, I think, the first and only time in the entire Pokemon series where this has been the case. Every other mainline RPG Pokemon game in the series has had a save option in the start menu. Heck, the sequel to this game, Pokemon XD, which I think both this game and XD have their merits. I think they're both solid games for what they are, and I think they both have pros and cons. That is one. I think this is the biggest con of this game. This is straight up my least favorite thing about this game. It is such a bad gameplay decision, and I don't know why they did it like this. It's been kind of common knowledge now, especially for fans of this game, that this game was not developed by Pokemon fans. Nintendo created a completely new branch at Nintendo to develop this game. Genius Sonority did not exist before developing this game. This is Genius Sonority's first, and I think only credit after this was this and its sequel at Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. Genius Sonority was not... Genius Sonority had, like, no Pokemon fans. Genius Sonority, the director of Genius Sonority, was mostly known for making Dragon Quest games, which... I don't know if, like, any of the later Dragon Quest, like the Super Nintendo ones or anything, had built-in save options in the game, but, like, the Game Boy Pokemon games had built-in save options. They had built-in save options in The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Like, there have been options to save your game at any point since the Super Nintendo. I don't know why they decided that only locking the ability to save your game behind certain areas, which are spread pretty sparsely throughout the region, mind you. They're not, like, everywhere. They have to, like, actually search them out to find them. I don't know why they decided to lock saving your game behind those, because this game really pushes that you snag as many Shadow Pokemon as you can, and there are certain Shadow Pokemon in fights later on where if you, there are certain Pokemon in fights later on where if you fail to snag them or if you knock the Shadow Pokemon out, you get another shot later. That is not the case with every single Pokemon. I went back, before I cut away, to the trainer that I knocked out the Meditite on last episode, and I, did everything in my power. I left the area, I came back, I talked to him again, I walked around, I did everything I could think of to try to battle him again, and he wouldn't let me. That was my one and only shot to catch that Meditite, and because I failed, I wouldn't have got another chance. And because this game really emphasizes that you snag as many Shadow Pokemon as you can to try to save them, and you get a reward for snagging them all, by the way. Full heal in that box, by the way. That heals any status condition. You get a reward for snacking every shadow Pokemon, by the way. So I just don't know why the game decided that it was a good idea to lock saving your game behind a PC. It doesn't make any sense to me. I know I'm not a game designer. I know game designing is hard. And I know that it was probably hard for a bunch of people who were not familiar with this franchise to try to develop a game in this franchise. But they did a pretty darn good job otherwise. Like, this game is pretty solid all around, I would like to think. And pretty much everybody who's played it would agree that this game is pretty great all around. But, man, oh man. It is my single least favorite thing about this game, and I don't know. And again, every previous Pokemon game up to that point has had the save option locked to the start menu. And the sequel immediately fixed this, and every game since then has had the save option. I think the only game, and like, you can make the argument, that, oh, excuse me, I'm kind of, not to be gross, but I'm kind of burping because I just chugged like half a bottle of water before I started this recording. You can make the argument that this is a spin-off, and like, oh, because it's a spin-off, like, they don't need to have the typical, you know, the typical way you would save your game. But like, even still, you can save your game. Let's look at all the other Pokemon spin-offs, okay? The Pokemon trading card game, which I've played, by the way. The Pokemon trading card game, you can save at any time. Straight up, you can save at any time. You can't save during battles, obviously, but you can save at any time out in the field. Pokemon Snap, you obviously can't save during missions, but you can save at any time in between missions, and the levels in Pokemon Snap are short enough to where you wouldn't want to save in the middle of them anyways. Pokemon Stadium is mostly just minigames and battles, and while I'm pretty sure you could just save at any time during Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Stadium 2. The only kind of sort of exception I will give is Mystery Dungeon. Because like, you obviously can't save in the middle of dungeons, but again, dungeons, depending on the dungeon, depending on the game, the dungeons aren't that long to begin with. And also, literally every single Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game has been portable. You could just, like, you can just take it wherever you want to go. The only kind of exception is Mystery Dungeon DX, which again, is on the Switch. Sorry, I'm just kind of ranting at this point. You get the point. But, man, it's just not a good time at all, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, what's also not a good time is that we have these guys who are, oh, actually, this guy's different, never mind. We have basically a battle in every single direction we go in this cave. It's the cave of never-ending battles. But we gotta keep moving. We have Swablu and Lotad, two pretty interesting Pokemon. Why does every single person in this cave have a Lotad, by the way? I don't think there's been a single trainer in this cave that hasn't had a Lotad. Swablu is a Shadow Pokemon. Swablu is pretty interesting. It starts out as a pretty basic normal flying type. Normal flying types I talked about when I went over, oh, right, Mischievous System Hyper Mode. I talked about, normal flying types when I went over Noctowl back at Pirate Square. Normal flying types typically are good at attacking, have a decent move pool, and pretty balanced stats all around. And Swablu is no exception. Swablu is not evolved yet. So its stats aren't anything to write home about. However, when it evolves, it's going to turn into a very interesting type with some good stats and some good moves. I'm not going to spoil what it's going to evolve into, because I plan to catch it right here and use it on my team. I think Swablu is going to fit in very well on this team. I need to get rid of Hyper Mode real quick. I think Swablu is going to fit in very well on this team. For a few reasons. One, we don't really have a common weakness per se, but grass and bug are two types that we don't have any counter to right now. I mean, Mischievous can just tank through it, and I mean, it's not like there's any decent bug type worth a damn, so I don't think Espeon's gonna really have any problems, but the point is, we could use a flying type to help cover that. Also, we don't really have any good defensive Pokemon. Croconaw is somewhat defensive, because I've already mentioned that I don't plan on using my Espeon the entire game. Or my Umbreon the entire game, excuse me. And Umbreon's about the best defensive Pokemon we have right now. We don't have a solid defensive Pokemon, and this thing is going to evolve into a very defensive Pokemon, which I could very much use. So, I don't know. I hope you see my reasoning. I hope I prove it to you why I like it, and I don't know. If any of you watch Chugga Conroy's Emerald Let's Play, then you know what this thing is and why it's good, but I don't know. Now, I was hoping the Surf doesn't knock it out here. Good, good. Go do that. Let's go and use Shadow Ball on that Beldum. And we will use... We can just try Pokeball. Let's go and use Pokeball on the Swablu. One, 2, 3. Gotcha. Welcome to the team, Swablu. Went ahead, ran back down to that downstairs area to go ahead and switch Swablu out to the front of our party, and to go ahead and heal up. Let's continue on going downstairs. Go down. I don't know why I put emphasis on go downstairs here. Go down to these stairs, and it looks like we're at the. I don't want to go in there. Looks like we're at the bottommost point here, or kind of topmost point, I guess I should say. I don't want to go in there because I believe that is the proper way to go, and we do not want to go there yet. Let's go and come over this way. I'm not going to fight you yet. I think I might go ahead and fight you coming on the way back through. Real quick, while we're going through this, I want to mention something. You might have noticed that the Pokemon we're fighting, like the opponent's enemy Pokemon, are pretty consistent, if not on par or over with our Pokemon's levels. Even though we're using unpurified Shadow Pokemon that aren't gaining experience and aren't leveling up, we're still kind of struggling a little bit. Like, their Pokemon are very consistent and are right on line with our Pokemon's levels as well. So, you might be able to see it here in this battle, once we load it up here, Pokemon Melee. If you had one more letter in your name, you'd be a Xenoblade party member. Yes, yes, I'm talking about Xenoblade and playing Pokemon. I really am turning into Chugga Conroy. This will be Swablu's first battle here. But yeah, once we go and get this battle started, you'll see... Okay, well, this is a bad example because he's only level 20. But you saw in the battle, where we snagged Swablu, those Pokemon were in their 30s, and we're definitely not one-shotting stuff, and they're having some decently strong Pokemon. Like, I've seen a couple Longbraids, I've seen a couple evolved Pokemon and stuff, so the Pokemon we're fighting in here are decently strong, especially for this point in the game. And that's something I want to bring up, is the fact that Pokemon Colosseum is a fairly challenging game. Not even fairly, Pokemon Colosseum straight up is a challenging game. I would make the argument that the sequel, I don't know, they're pretty even in difficulty. XD has a pretty tough difficulty spike toward the end, where I think this game doesn't really spike in difficulty. This game has a very solid difficulty curve. But this game is difficult. I would make the argument that this is the hardest Pokemon game. If you want to say it's a spin-off and it doesn't count, I would say these games are basically mainline Pokemon games because they follow the same formula, but people don't want to make that argument. But if you want to say that this is the hardest Pokemon spin-off, then sure. But I would make the argument this is the hardest Pokemon game, period. If I'm not allowed to count spin-offs, and if I'm not allowed to count spin-offs or anything like that, then I'll just say, I don't think Platinum's that hard. I'm gonna tell you straight up. I played through all of Platinum a couple of years ago. I beat it on vacation because I brought my 3DS on vacation with me, and I played through the entire game. The only fight I ever struggled on was Lucian, and I beat Cynthia first try. Now, when I played through Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, I played through Shining Pearl specifically. When I played through Shining Pearl, it took me a couple tries to beat Cynthia. So I would make the argument. Now, also, my team in Shining Pearl wasn't nearly as good as my team in Platinum. My team in Platinum was kind of busty, even though I mostly used the same team, but that's beside the point. You get the point. I would make the argument that I think Black and White might be the hardest mainland Pokemon game, just because Enon gets this back-to-back. Alright, this is getting a little bit ridiculous, Mr. You know what? I'm okay if Swablu goes into hyper mode because that means I can lower its heart gauge's call. So I'm actually okay with it. But Misdreavus, your heart gauge is fully down. You literally go into hyper mode multiple times a battle, and it's actually a little bit ridiculous. But yeah, I would make the argument that I think Black and White is probably the hardest Pokemon game. Oh, that animation was so cute. I want a bird that looks like Swablu. Swablu is so cute, and I just want a bird, period. I love birds so much. Over last fall, I went with my parents to Tennessee, and there's this place in Tennessee called Parrot Mountain, and it's basically a bird sanctuary, and you can just walk around, and they have a whole bunch of exotic birds and stuff in their cages, but they also just have a bunch of birds just lying around that are just flying around. But they have this one section where you go in and they just have a bunch of birds on stands, and you can just walk around and feed them and pet them, and it was fantastic, and I was in love with it. But yeah. Oh my god, that did nothing to that guy. Alright, we're gonna have to think of something else here. I might switch out to Espeon and just get this over with, because this battle has taken... Oh, there we go! Swablu, look at Swablu, already pulling its weight. Not like it could probably pull its weight that much, because its wings are made of literal clouds, and... You know what, it's okay. Let's do this, and this. So yeah, I would make the argument that I think Black and White's the hardest Pokemon game, just because Enon gets this back-to-back is... That's a hard final... that's a hard final section. Getsus is legitimately a hard boss fight. Having a high dragon that's not even supposed to be that level with that moveset is legitimately a little bit ridiculous. That battle was taking way too freaking long. Wow, my confidence took a hit. Welcome to the club. That battle was taking way too freaking long, so I had to switch out Espeon and have them take care of it. During that battle, oh, here we go. We have one Zinc, one Carbos, one Protein, and I'm pretty sure this is the Calcium. Oh, it's an Iron, I'm wrong. These are vitamins. Oh boy, alright. So, this, I'm not gonna get too deep into this because it's very complicated, but those raise specific stats. They raise defense, attack, special defense, special attack, respectively. Those aren't in order, but those are just the stats that they raise. Those are just the stats that they raise. However, wait, we have Melee and Mela. So if you two fuse, would you form into Melee from Xenoblade? Okay. This gets into EVs and IVs, which are pretty complicated and not something I really want to go into. So I'm gonna try my best to explain it. I'm gonna try my best to explain it best as I can. So EVs and IVs are stand for effort values and individual values. Individual values are what the Pokemon stat is right now. So if your individual value is whatever number in attack, that's just what the stat is. That's what it is. Effort values are how much you gain per level up. So kind of like in Fire Emblem, how units have a growth stat, and it's their percent that they grow per level up. It's kind of like that, and having high effort values, will mean that you will gain more. Let's do this. Having high effort values means that you will gain more points in that stat when you level up. That's the basics of it. There's plenty more research you can do on it. I'm not going to go into, I'm not even going to link anything, but feel free to do more research on it on your own. But that's the basics. So those vitamins we just got raise the individual values of a Pokemon, which means it raises their total stats. Those actually can get maxed out, and eventually when you try to use vitamins on it, it tells them that that stat is too high and they can't use them anymore. So that's kind of interesting. A lot of competitive players like to breed Pokemon of certain kinds with certain other kinds and like mess with their effort values and individual values because it gives them higher stat gains when they get them to level 100, make their stats as best as they can be. So But that's all competitive mumbo-jumbo that we don't need to get into. You also might notice that Swablu here has Sing. Sing is a sleeping move that puts your opponents to sleep. Yes. It's a move that puts your opponents to sleep. Sleep is a status ailment that basically makes it to where the Pokemon is completely immobile for 3 to 5 turns, completely unable to do anything. The only thing it can do, if you, I think I've talked about it before, but if we are asleep, we can use the call command to wake them up. Oh my god, this is getting ridiculous. We can use the call command to wake them up. You can also use awakenings, which you don't need in this game, like I said. You can give them berry. There's certain berries. I believe it's Chesto berries wake them up from. Yeah, Chesto berries wake them up from sleep. And there's also certain abilities that can wake. There's also certain abilities that can wake you up. Like if you have the ability Vital Spirit, that means Pokemon can't sleep. The move Wake Up Slap that was introduced in Gen 5 wakes a Pokemon up from sleep if it's hit by it, and the move Uproar that's actually in this game because we saw it. We've seen Pokemon use it. It prevents sleep as well. So there's all kind of nuances, and the only exception to not being able to attack. Jesus Christ, Mr. Revis. Swablu I can accept. Swablu's heart gauge is still very full, but Misdreavus, your heart gauge hasn't been full for like eons. You've literally been in hyper mode for 3 turns in a row. And I know I could just suck it up and use Shadow Rush, but I don't like to do it because I just want to get this battle over with. And I know I could just switch out back to Espeon, but I don't want Espeon to have to deal with every problem because my other Pokemon are incapable of doing it themselves. Oh my god, well I guess we're switching out to Espeon anyways. Alright, fair enough. Sorry, Swablu. The only, as I was saying, the only exception to not being able to attack during sleep is a move called Sleep Talk, which, well, not necessarily. There's a move called Snore, which is basically just a regular attack. It doesn't have any special benefit or anything. And then there's the move Sleep Talk, which randomly uses one of your moves in your menu at random when you're asleep. A lot of people like to use the move Sleep Talk with a move called Rest, which puts you to sleep but heals all statuses and health. But what's funny is you can use Rest, use Sleep Talk, and then get Rest again. And anybody who's ever played Gen 1 and had to fight Snorlax knows exactly how annoying Rest can actually be. Up here, we have this random person standing in the middle of this area with nothing else around them. Sorry, Swablu, but I'm too lazy to walk all the way back to heal you just to fight this one trainer. So we're just going to go and fight this trainer with Croconaw, Espeon, Sema. I don't think we've seen, like... I think the only, like... the only, like, normal name we've seen this entire game has been Lily and Kale. And Silva's not a horse. Silva's not a bad name, actually. I'll take Silva. There is truthfully nothing out here. This trainer's canon purpose is just to waste your time. And to give you experience, I guess. But Espeon and Croconaw kind of just mopped the floor with her, so it wasn't a huge deal. Ah! Back then here at the bottom of the stairs where the healing machine is, to show off that I never went this way because there's nothing up there. This is basically just a way for you to see that there's those item boxes there, but we already have those. 2 interesting things to note about that last battle that I just got into. 1, I believe that is the only trainer in this entire game that doesn't have a Lotad on their team. And 2, in that battle, Espeon grew to level 33. After searching through every possible nook and cranny of this cave, going down every split path, fighting every single trainer, and massacring the entire population of Lotad in the Aura region, and picking ourselves up a new partner along the way, we had a pretty productive day today. Next time on Let's Play Pokemon Colosseum, we will head into this final section of the cave, seeing if Mirror B is waiting for us. And if he is, we will challenge him to a battle. If you like this product, please like, comment, and subscribe for more content. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.